Good evening and welcome to the regular City Council meeting for the City of St. Peter, Minnesota. It is Monday, January 22nd, 2024, and we are now called to order. It is 7:01 p.m. Would all please rise for the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. Everybody's received a copy. Are there any revisions or corrections to the agenda? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the agenda as distributed?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of approval say aye.
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 Any opposed? The agenda is approved. Moving on, approval of the minutes. The minutes are printed on pages 6 through 9 of the agenda. Are there any revisions or corrections to the minutes as distributed? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor of approval say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved. We now have time on our schedule for visitors' comments. I don't see any members of the of the audience who might want to address us, but we'll go through the motions. We have time on our agenda both for visitors who'd like to address us on agenda items and for visitors who'd like to address us on any item whatsoever. Seeing no member of the audience who wishes to address the council, we will move on to approval of the consent agenda. The consent agenda begins with the memo that is on page 10 of the packet and concludes with the resolution on page 31. The resolution includes the following purchases in excess of $25,000 to Minnesota Paving and Material for a quartzite stone in the amount of $30,575, to Loggers for a 2024 Dodge Durango in the price is $40,680. The following advisory board change: we will rescind the appointment of Abby Lane from the HPC and appoint her to the Tourism and Visitors Bureau for a term 2023 through 2025. The following license application is approved contingent upon payment of the licensing fee and compliance with all conditions outlined in City Code. That would be a temporary gambling license to Helping Minnesota Heroes for February 22nd, 2024 at 412 South 3rd Street, as well as the schedule of disbursements for January 4th, 2024 through January 17th, 2024. Are there any discussion on any consent agenda item? Hearing no discussion, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, we have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please, Barbara.
Thank you. Councilmember Sharstrom.
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
Mayor Noel.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
I'm gonna get a switch then. Councilmember Pettis.
Aye.
Councilmember Leon.
Aye.
That's it. Resolution is approved. Thank you. We have no items of unfinished business tonight.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
We did have a guest enter that I think did want to say something, but she's a couple of minutes late. Would she have an opportunity to speak on an agenda item?
That would be, do you have an item that you'd like to discuss with the council?
Yeah, an agenda item.
Is that out of order, or can we, it's our agenda, we can change as we wish?
You can do as you wish, Madam Mayor. You run the meeting. I would suggest, though, that you identify what the agenda item is.
Which agenda item would you like to speak toward?
The sale of 107 West Nassau.
Okay, that would probably, that's on the agenda for sure. If you'd like to come up and introduce yourself and give your address, we will give you 5 minutes to address the council.
Walked in at just the right time. Thank you. Amanda Malkin, 107 West Nassau, 1009 Weddergren Street, St. Peter. This is in regards to the sale of West Nassau, otherwise known as St. Peter Plaza. My husband urged me to come tonight because public speaking is not my thing, but this is an important topic to me and I think to the community. So I just first off wanted to thank the council and for their part in allowing me to create this project in town. I'm not here to try to convince you not to sell the property because I always knew that that would be a possibility when I took on the project. But I would like to give you 2 things to think about as you do consider the sale. So the first is that there are events scheduled at the plaza throughout through the year through September. So if we could keep those commitments to the groups that have requested the use of the plaza, that would be really wonderful. I don't know, how long it takes for a sale to go through or when demolition would even start, but just that's my timeline, if possible. The other thing that I wanted to share is that in order to even accomplish this project, I received a $10,000 grant from AARP. Most of that went to paint for the mural. And so, if the sale does go through and I lose this space, it would be really wonderful to be able to have a discussion about potentially finding a new space for the plaza, because I do think that it has added a lot of value to the community, and it's only in its first year, so who knows what could happen, if it's allowed to continue. So if there is, a possibility for discussion in that avenue, then talking about some sort of monetary backing would be necessary, because I did have some good money behind the first project. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Madam Mayor, for your flexibility.
We are going to move on to new business. Our first item of new business is the adoption of a resolution approving a 2024 equipment certificate purchase for a field stripper. And Pete is here to talk to us about that.
Madam Mayor and City Council, part of our budget process includes identifying capital projects that are paid for by the equipment certificate. And before you today, you have a GPS field striper. We plan on using this unit with our new complexes and with our associations in order to make our process go a little quicker. We were able to save a little bit of money by purchasing this unit or making the verbal commitment at the end of December ahead of the January 1 timeline. And I think it was scheduled to come to you on January 8th when we noticed that it was an equipment certificate purchase, and so that is why we're back here today asking for authorization to purchase this. It will be a time saver, and it's much more efficient for our crews to do that. The demands for field striping have increased, and that is great because we have more public participation. I have a resolution on page 34 that we're asking for approval.
Madam Mayor, members, I think it's important to mention, which Pete did not, is that I did sign the purchase order outside of your policy. That was driven by the opportunity to save almost $10,000. It was something that you had approved in your budget and approved as a part of the equipment certificate within that budget. But I was in violation of the policy to save you $10,000 on a $40,000 expense. So, want to be transparent.
Thank you for being transparent
Want to be
about
transparent.
that. Absolutely. Very, very good. Questions for Todd or for Pete? Dustin?
How do you see this changing how we currently work with our associations in regards to striping fields?
No real difference in how we work with the associations. What it'll do though is it'll allow us to be more flexible and not have the time commitment that we currently have, because we'll put this into our GPS and now we can do this so much quicker. That's the benefit that we have. In the past, it's, if we find there's a change on a Monday and they need it by Wednesday, sometimes we weren't able to get there. And so this would hopefully help us be able to serve those associations a little better.
Additional questions? Hearing nothing further, the resolution authorizing retroactive purchase of GPS field striping painter with funding from the 2024 equipment certificate is on page 34 of the packet. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember DeVos,
Aye.
Mayor Noel,
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis,
Aye.
Councilmember Rand,
Aye.
Councilmember Sharpstra.
Aye.
The resolution is approved. Next up is the adoption of a resolution approving a 2024 equipment certificate purchase for a parks replacement truck.
Madam Mayor and City Council, pretty straightforward on this, like we have purchased other vehicles under the equipment certificate. We use the state bidding process to work with the distributor that is authorized through the administrative contract. The contract price is $49,112. And again, it would be funded by the equipment certificate. We would have some additional fees that are listed at the bottom of page 35 there for licensing, tax, and title, bringing the total cost about $52,738.45. This is replacing a 2004 3/4 ton truck with 115,000 miles. So if we're lucky, we can get another 20 years out of this vehicle and go from there. There's a resolution on page 37 that we're requesting approval.
All right, questions for, Brad is ready for a question, Pete, and then Ben.
Just a quick question. So is this the truck that you had $75,000 budgeted for?
Yes.
Good. I was just gonna say then, good job, very good job on sourcing it.
Ben?
One question, with these state bids, and I know timing might be a possible issue, but is there any way we can use the truck that would be surplus as a trade-in towards this purchased vehicle? If we did that, we'd save on the taxes, plus anything coming back from them would be on top of that, which would cover probably license and title and all of that. Is that a possibility, or?
It is a possibility. Usually what we do on a situation like this, if the vehicle is not in usable condition or not in very good condition, we usually do that so that we dispose of the vehicle. This one here we'll probably use throughout the summer, declare it surplus sometime during the course of the year whenever we don't need it. That gets us through the next cycle into 2025.
Sounds good.
All right. Further questions for Pete? Hearing nothing else, the resolution authorizing purchase of a 2024 Ram 2500 regular cab four-wheel drive truck with funding from the 2024 equipment certificate, that is not easy to say, is on page 37 of the packet. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Mayor Noel.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis.
Aye.
Councilmember Ramp.
Aye.
Councilmember Sherstrom.
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos.
Hi.
The resolution is approved.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pete. Next up, adoption of a resolution approving a request for city assistance for the Polar Bear Plunge.
Mayor members, this information starts on page 38 within your packet, and you've seen a request like this for more than a decade from Sheriff Lang, who has typically hosted this event in St. Peter. In just about every year it's been hosted at Hallett's Pond. This year he's hoping to host it at Hallett's Pond as well, and I think that's really regardless of the ice conditions there. Whether there's thick enough ice or not, their plan is to go there. The most significant change that you see here is that this will not only be on the pond, but it will be in Hallett Park. And so modifications have been made to the memo and to the resolution related to that. Pete's crew does a lot of work for this, and so I want you to be aware that there is a cost for that, and this is similar to what you've seen in previous years. The sheriff's required through the county to provide the appropriate level of information for utilization of your facilities, like all other events of this type are. And again, beyond that, there's not a lot that is a significant change from previous years. So the resolution is included in your packet, Madam Mayor.
Any questions for Todd? Brad? Dustin?
Oh my gosh. I guess I would like to express
We're both insulted. So.
a little bit of concern this year with it being at Hallett. Specifically, I spoke with Chris Hyland from APX, of which they're not done with their construction of the site, nor have they begun to work on the actual park and making sure it's ready. And when I spoke to him last week, no one had contacted him, and he knew nothing about it until I had reached out. I'm just concerned with the additional parking there, lack of parking options.
So I can't speak to that because obviously I wasn't involved in the conversation, but when I visited with the sheriff about this, it's my understanding that he had visited with the ownership group. So again, I can't speak to that. Certainly I can circle back to make sure that the ownership group is aware of this. It's my understanding that the sheriff has spoke with Hy-Vee and
Okay.
has talked with them. We don't have significant concerns about the level of development at the park currently. We may have had concerns had we been in a very wet and unfrozen situation, but it doesn't feel like that's going to be the case right now after last week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pete, do you
So I
have
can
any
circle back.
concerns with the park and being able to access it?
We'll be in contact with both the Apex Group and Dave Lang over the course of the next week.
Okay.
Additional questions, Ben?
The one thing I'd want to make sure that we keep an eye on this year is we've had problems the last couple years with major erosion after emptying the hot tub and eating that up. So if we can just figure out a way to drain the hot tub to where it doesn't cause
So to be
a ton of
clear, the
erosion.
city does not drain the hot tub. We have had conversation with the organizers about this. They are well aware of this.
Okay, just want to make sure.
That is not, it's not a city project, and
Yep.
so it's volunteers that did it. I believe it was 2 years ago. I don't believe we had any struggles the last
Okay.
year. Maybe it was 3 years ago when that occurred.
Okay.
Additional questions? All right, hearing nothing further, the resolution authorizing the use of Hallett Park and Hallett's Pond for the 2024 Polar Bear Plunge is on page 40 of the packet. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis.
Aye.
Councilmember Ramp.
Aye.
Councilmember Sherstrom.
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
Mayor Noel.
Aye. The resolution is approved. Next up, another request for city assistance. This would be the adoption of a resolution approving a request for city assistance for the St. Patrick's Day Parade.
Mayor and members, this information starts on page 41 within your packet. The request comes from the St. Peter Ambassadors, who have hosted the St. Patrick's Day Parade for many, many, many years at this same location. Over the last couple of years, the route has changed just a little bit, not really in location, but in length. I think the most significant change that you see from last year is that they've reduced the length of it 1 block. They're trying to find that happy medium. As you may recall, last year the weather was cold, and so they didn't have very many people strung out along the entire area. So this time they thought, well, we could shrink it down just a little bit. And I don't know, I was not involved in their discussions, but I assume it has to do with the Tootsie Roll ratio per block or something like that. And so anyway, this is their request, similar to before. They're required to have insurance and all those things, which we make them have. And they've been good stewards of this location and of this event over the last number of years. The resolution's included in your packet, Madam Mayor.
Questions for Todd? Hearing no discussion, resolution authorizing city assistance for the St. Patrick's Day Parade is on page 43 of the packet. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Pettis.
Aye.
Councilmember Ramp.
Aye.
Councilmember Sherstrom.
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
Mayor Noel.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye. The resolution is approved. Moving on to the adoption of a resolution adopting an updated flag policy.
Mayor and members, this is an item that you talked about and really first kind of came to attention back in November of 2023. Members had asked that you have the opportunity to discuss this policy, which you did at a previous workshop. What you see included in your packet is my best take on that discussion from your workshop, so that's included as a part of the resolution. Again, I thought you had a very rich discussion about a number of issues related to the flag policy, the least of which is not who, when, where, how. And so again, I thought you had a very rich discussion, and this is my best take on that discussion and establishing, I don't want to say a new policy, but a modified policy. So I'm happy to go through each of these bullet points, but I think the most significant one is really probably the first one, which is a more significant deviation from your current policy. And really what we're trying to say as a part of that first bullet point is that, and you're aware of this, that oftentimes when the governor or the president orders flags flown at half-mast, they are not very specific what this applies to. They often say things like on all federal buildings, period, or all federal buildings and military installations, period. It doesn't say anything about local units of government. And there is occasion when they might order flags at half-mast, and that it includes all units of government. And so in the past, we've had a very strict reading of what that is. This bullet point provides that if it's ordered down at federal buildings by the president, or if it's ordered down by the governor for all state facilities, we will follow suit whether it includes listing of cities or local units of government. So we'll follow suit with that. I think the other thing that's important is that it does carve out an opportunity for folks who might be in service, who die in the line of duty, who are in service, who die in the line of duty from St. Peter. And I think it provides just a little bit more clarification that they must be a native or a graduate of St. Peter High School. In addition to that, the last bullet points allows for the council through resolution to ask or direct that flags be flown at half-staff. I don't want to get into a hypothetical about the different ways that that could happen, but again, I think you had very rich discussion about the value of that, and there may be instances that have local significance that you want to provide that opportunity where the governor or the president has not provided for that opportunity. Lastly, I would say that there are other times when the flag is supposed to be flown at half-mast, and those are generally done either through state legislatures or through Congress. And so it's our goal to meet those requirements as well. So an example of that is Memorial Day or 9/11, September 11th. There are a few other examples as well. So I want you to be aware of that, and it would be our goal, if you pass this, to follow this to the best of our ability.
Questions or discussion? Carrie?
Yeah, I have two things. And so the first one is in the resolution on the bullet point where it says on days as required by federal law, exampled by. I think that bullet point still makes sense, but based on a citizen email and some research that I did today, Veterans Day wouldn't typically be a day to lower the flags because it's not a mourning day, it's a day of celebration, and so maybe striking that from the exampled by, but it doesn't change the bullet point. And then just the typo in Firefighter Memorial Day, to correct that, unless there's some other way to spell that I'm unaware of.
Thank you, under memorial.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. And then I wanted to just ask about the last bullet point, at such other times as may be designated by resolution of the St. Peter City Council. So that would mean if we felt that the flag should be lowered in some other, as not designated by the previous bullet points, it might take 2 weeks for us to pass a resolution. And so that might not feel like, that might feel like too long for some people, and I'm a little bit concerned about that. But we also had this discussion in the workshop that we don't, having that consistency is also important too, so that, depending on who's mayor, who's city administrator at the time, making those decisions might be, like we'd lose that consistency over time. But I'm also somewhat concerned that it would take 2 weeks to pass a resolution if we felt like, let's say tomorrow, they needed to be lowered and we'd have to wait until the next meeting, so.
Yeah, in our conversations, I also expressed that concern that if you have to do it by resolution only, that the timeliness would probably not feel good to the individuals that are impacted. It probably wouldn't feel good to us as a council either, but I think there was good discussion about not having all of the decision making. For example, the mayor in some cities can make this decision, and I think that there was less comfort among giving this group. I don't want to speak for others, but what I got from that conversation, less comfort with that being solely a decision that could be made by the council. Overall, we felt more comfortable having it be by resolution. So it's going to be something that maybe we need to feel out, and if we change our minds, well, we can talk about it again and come up with something else. But you're absolutely right. I could see circumstances where it would not feel timely.
Mm-hmm.
Mayor, members, if I could add maybe some historical context to this. So I've only been in this position 26 years, but I don't recall a time previously when the mayor has ordered the flags at half-staff. But I can recall times when mayors have been asked to lower the flags for lots of different circumstances. Mostly, frankly, probably not in keeping with the level of duty or honor outlined in the other bullet points. So we have had occasion where we've had someone ask to have it lowered for their mother-in-law's birthday or passing, and maybe their mother-in-law didn't serve in the armed forces. And so how do you want to field those? I think that's part of the challenge, and what do people request? And certainly over time, public input, public thought, public perception about the value or lack of value relative to this action has waxed and waned. And I think that's likely to continue into the future. This is probably one of those things that having a longer term outlook on serves your community best and provides the greatest opportunity for, well, putting the flags at half-staff is supposed to have an impact. And when it's done too often, it may lose that impact. And I think that was part of your discussion as well. Yeah.
Carol.
And we do have a process within 24 hours, we can call a special meeting if we so needed to. Generally, that's more than enough time.
This might be a challenge, and it certainly is at the will of the council, but it might be a challenge if pressed on this issue to meet the statutory rule related to calling an emergency meeting. But I agree, within 3 days, certainly. Yeah.
Done for disasters.
Yeah. I think it's also interesting too that oftentimes we see utilization of this in other communities, and certainly based on the governor's orders or the president's orders for very significant events within our country or within the state. But we at times see this for, maybe it's for a day. So it's on the day of a funeral, as an example, or it's down until interment occurs, if we focus on that area. It's interesting that with the significant changes that we've seen in our society over the last 3 years related to when and how funerals occur. And sometimes funerals now are occurring months and months after someone has passed. And so that world is changing as well.
Does not feel timely in
Right.
that case, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think what we have is probably not perfect, but I think, I hope it will serve us better. I think there are some improvements here, and certainly I think some of the language is a little more clear, even if it didn't change anything process-wise, just to be more clear and understandable by people who read the policy is always a good thing, so. Dustin?
Question for Todd, I guess when we undertook this, there was a level of ambiguity that you said made it challenging for you.
mm-hmm.
Does us changing this make you feel more comfortable?
So related to the specific incident or death, the tragedy that occurred in November, this likely does not change the result. Let me scroll up just a moment here if I could, please. So under that second bullet point, that member of the service who passed away while on active duty in the line of duty was neither of these things. So it wouldn't have changed the result, but I think providing a little bit more definition, including St. Peter graduate, helps to some extent clarify, again, whether it's down or whether it does not come down.
Carrie?
It was my understanding, though, that, was it that the state had lowered flags but didn't specify local units of government?
That's
Correct.
So,
That was
so in this case, so maybe it would have made an impact because if the governor is lowering, or did
Yeah, you're exactly correct. It
Okay.
would have been lowered under that first bullet point in
right,
that
okay,
instance. Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, I mean,
Thank you for
long-term
fixing
view-
my question.
Yeah, long-term view, we've had unfortunately times within our country when we have seen many, many people killed in the line of service over a relatively short period of time. And so, again, with those decision makers, whether it's the president or the governor, their thoughts and practices related to this have waxed and waned as well. So,
Any further questions or discussions, Carrie?
Well, could I make a motion with the revisions?
Yes,
that
yep.
So, I will make a motion to approve this resolution, with the revision of striking Veterans Day, for reasons I described previously, and then just, correcting the typo in Memorial Day.
Veterans Day or Memorial Day?
Veterans Day, because Veterans Day is, according to my research into the citizen email we got earlier today, it's it's not lowered because it's considered a day of celebration and not mourning.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Ram,
Aye.
Councilmember Sherstrom,
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos,
Aye.
Mayor Noel,
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis.
Aye.
The resolution is approved. Next up, we have a resolution calling for closed sessions to discuss union contract negotiations and a request to purchase city-owned property at 107 West Nassau Street.
Mayor members, if I could, just to provide a clarification based on your visitors' opportunity to speak section this evening, I do have in front of you 7 closed sessions which will each be recorded independently. But I anticipate not coming in to sell any property at this point. So that is not part of any action that I have on the list for you tonight. But you have the right under state statute to close your session for establishing pricing related to real property. And this falls into that category, so that's why it's included. Again, I only anticipate coming back into session on one of these closed sessions, and that's for LELS 241 police officers. None of the others do I have additional action scheduled for you tonight.
So we're going to adjourn to closed session. We'll remain in this room. We'll return to open session, and we'll have probably one action item before us and then reports, etc.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is there any discussion, or do we have a motion to approve the resolution?
Make a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Sherstrom,
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos,
Aye.
Mayor Noel,
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis,
Aye.
Councilmember Ram.
Aye.
All right, the resolution is approved, and it is 7:32 p.m. We will move into closed session. All right, we are going back into open session. It is 8:55, January 22nd, 2024. And our next item of new business will be the adoption of resolution authorizing execution of union contract between city and law enforcement labor services, local number 241 police officers.
Mayor members, there's information provided on your desk and generally available to the public at your meeting. You've had 2 closed sessions on this contract negotiation with police officers. The information and the recommendation from staff is to approve a contract, a 1-year contract, a wage increase of 7% across the board for all classifications included in the union, uniform allowance increase modification of $50 per year, changes to increase uniformity with non-union and other contracts related to comp time, bereavement leave, vacation accrual, holiday recognition, and pay. Those are issues, Mayor and members, that are substantially similar to the non-unionized policy changes you made at the end of 2023. And then any technical changes related to typos, names, those types of things that we might find would be modified. This falls very closely within the amount that I've budgeted for this item for the 2024 year. Again, related to wages, the goal here has been to keep your officers on par with similarly situated and sized departments within our area, and I believe this does that. Happy to answer any additional questions or things that you might have to the best of my ability, Madam Mayor and members.
The wage increase will be retroactive to January 1st?
Yes, ma'am. Generally, the policy of the city councils in the past have been wage modifications are made retroactive to the first of the year. So this would be the first of 2024 year.
Questions or discussion? Hearing nothing further, the resolution authorizing execution of the 2024 contract by and between the city and law enforcement labor services local number 240 police officers has been distributed. Is there a motion to adjourn? Sorry. Motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember DeVos,
Aye.
Mayor Noel,
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis,
Aye.
Councilmember Ramp,
Aye.
Councilmember Sharpsburg.
The resolution is approved.
Did you vote?
I said aye. He said aye. Wow, it's been a long night, folks at home. We are going to move on to reports. I have no report tonight. Are there any council members who'd like to make a report at this time? Hearing nothing, we will move on to reports from the city administrator.
Mayor and members, I just wanted to mention that you'll be receiving an agenda for goal setting session, which occurs next Monday. Typically, you do that on the 5th Monday of the month. That starts at 3 o'clock and ends when you are done. The plan for food is Domino's, as we have done in the past, unless you have certain other dietary restrictions that I am unaware of. So let me know if you have any questions or any concerns about that. Madam Mayor, that's all I have for reports.
All right, that concludes our agenda for tonight. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.